So let's start with past 24 class. This would be principally a topic that would only result in theory questions. So our takeaway from these standard class should be just few and simple. Number one, that we should understand why the standard requires additional disclosures for transactions between related parties. Number two, we should know who are and aren't considered as related parties, and we should be able to identify transactions between related parties that require disclosures. So this would be perhaps the most important thing or takeaway for this standard class. We should be able to know who are considered as related parties, who aren't considered related parties, and we should know which related party transaction will require disclosures. A third takeaway would be, as mentioned, we should know the general disclosure requirements because you may have a theory question asking for the disclosures that are required for related party transactions. And of course, we would always prepare for theory questions class involving simple definition of terms lang. Okay, so it's important that we become familiar with key terminologies from this standard. When you go to paragraph 4 class, related party transactions and outstanding balances with other entities in a group are disclosed in an entity's financial statements. Intra-group related party transactions and uh, outstanding balances are limited except for those between an investment entity and its subsidiaries, measured at fair value through profit or loss in the preparation of consolidated financial statements. Okay, the first part of this paragraph class is important, but truthfully, it will hardly be noteworthy class since essentially the point of past 24 class is to identify and prescribe disclosures in relation to related party transactions. So if it will just be eliminated class, then it will not be relevant anymore. The second sentence becomes relevant when dealing with consolidated financial statements class, which will be our concern only when we proceed to your third year subjects class, specifically your business combination. Okay, proceeding to the purpose of related party disclosures. This part of the standard class explains why it is important for the financial statement users to be informed of the existence of related parties and related party transactions. Again, I've mentioned that in reading this standard class, one of our key takeaways should be that we would understand the reason why the standard will require disclosures for related parties and related party transactions. Okay, I hope you'll find time to go over this uh, part of the standard class. Take note of paragraph 6. A related party relationship could have an effect on the profit or loss and financial position of an entity. Related parties may enter into transaction that unrelated parties would not. So if you will be asked, of course, we don't expect to be asked an essay question class, but in your minds, if you'll be asked, what's the purpose of requiring related party disclosures? Because again, the transactions between related parties will have an effect on their profit or loss. Okay, it's possible class for related party transactions to actually be a losing transaction for one of the parties. And the only reason that that party entered into the transaction, it's because they are related parties. Paragraph 7, the profit or loss and financial position of an entity may be affected by a related party relationship even if related party transactions do not occur. Okay, the mere existence of the relationship may be sufficient to affect the transactions of the entity with other parties. And we're given with an example. A subsidiary may terminate relations with a trading partner on acquisition by the parent of a fellow I would understand that you would not be able to visualize the transactions class. Maybe you will just revisit this standard once you discuss business combination. Okay, we'll just try to go over the standard for us to be prepared with possible theory questions that can come out in our examinations class. Which leads us now to the definition of terms class. Okay, if a question would be asked, it would almost always be the definition of terms class. Okay, and we start with the definition of a related party. Okay, make sure to observe the definition of a related party class, a related party transaction, close members of the family, and key management personnel. So these can be four different theory questions class wherein you will be given a definition and you will have to choose whether it defines a related party transaction, close members, and key management personnel. So the standard tells us a related party is a person or entity that is related to the entity that is preparing its financial statements. But even that definition class is very broad. Uh, but again, that is the definition given in the standard class. Now, a person or a close member of that person's family is related to a reporting entity if that person, take note of the keywords class, control or joint control of the reporting entity, significant influence, or is a member of the key management personnel of the reporting entity or of a parent of the reporting entity. Take note of joint control, significant influence, and key management personnel. Okay. But if you will have an interesting multiple choice question, it will come from letter B from this definition class. Which of the following uh, describes a related party transaction or would show that the parties are related parties. Okay, so please make sure to be familiar with these items. An entity is related to a reporting entity if any of the following condition applies. The entity and the reporting entity are members of the same group. One entity is an associate or joint venture of the other. Uh, both entities are joint ventures of the same third party. One entity is a joint venture with third party and the other entity is an associate of the third party. Now, again, it would be very difficult to visualize this class. So at this point, what is expected from you is just to be familiar with this kind of arrangements. Okay. If you look at paragraph 11 also, in the context of the standard, the following are not related parties. Okay. Uh, you should give these paragraphs special attention class, paragraph 9 and paragraph 11. Okay, because paragraph 9b class and 11 are the primary source of multiple choice questions. Okay. For 11, which of the following describes a scenario wherein the parties are not related parties? For paragraph 9, which of the following describes a scenario wherein the parties are related parties? Okay, so please take note of paragraph 9 and paragraph 11. Now, if we go back to paragraph 9, after the enumeration there, uh, enumeration paragraph 9b, you have there the definition of a related party transaction. Again, almost always this would be asked as a theory question. A related party transaction is the transfer of resources, services, or obligations between a reporting entity and a related party, regardless of whether a price is charged. Very important qualification class. Because sometimes the question will make it tricky by saying that it will only be a related party transaction if the price is changed. Take note that the standard tells us that it will still be considered as a related party transaction regardless of whether a price is charged. Now, close members of the family are those family members who may be expected to influence or be influenced by that person in their dealings with the entity and include. So, how will this be asked as a multiple choice question? Which of the following will will be considered as a close member of the family, and you already have three choices there. So what the question will normally do is just add an item that is not among those three. So what should you do? Remember these three, and what are these three, class? The person's children and spouse or domestic partner, children of that person's spouse or domestic partner. What scenario is being contemplated here? That the children of that spouse is not the children of that person, a stepchildren, dependents of that person or that person's spouse or domestic partner. So this shouldn't be difficult for you to remember, but again, it's very easy for us to visualize how this can be asked as a multiple choice question. Then lastly, the definition for your key management personnel, class. Key management personnel are those persons having authority and responsibility for planning, directing, and controlling the activities of the entity directly or indirectly, including any director of that entity. Okay, please take note of the definition for key management person. So make sure you read along as we go over the standard. Proceed to paragraph 13. Relationships between a parent and its subsidiary shall be disclosed irrespective of whether there have been transactions between them. An entity shall disclose the name of its parent, and if different, the ultimate controlling party. If neither the entity, so basically that tells you that one of the required disclosures is the name of the parent or the controlling party. If neither the entity's parent nor the ultimate controlling party produces consolidated financial statements, the name of the next most senior parent that does so shall also be disclosed. So basically, this paragraph, class, serves as a reminder that it is not just the related party transactions that have to be disclosed. The existence of the relationship, whether or not there is a transaction between them during the year, will have to be disclosed. So please take note. It's not just the transaction, but even the existence of the relationship. Okay, so paragraph 17. These are what are required to be disclosed, class. An entity shall disclose key management personnel compensation in total and for each of the following categories: short-term employee benefits, post-employment benefits, other long-term benefits, termination benefits, and share-based payments. Okay, so basically how this can be transformed as a multiple choice question, class, is that three out of the five would be included among the choices, and you will be asked which one will not have to be disclosed. So it's important that you're familiar with these five. 17A, if an entity obtains key management personnel services from another entity, the entity is not required to apply the requirements in paragraph 17 to the compensation paid or payable by the management entity to the management entity's employees or directors. So it's more of an exemption. Paragraph 18, if an entity has had related party transactions during the periods covered by the financial statements, it shall disclose the nature of the related party relationships as well as information about those transactions and outstanding balances, including commitments necessary for users to understand the potential effect of the relationship on financial statements. So what will normally happen here, class, is that paragraph 17A, paragraph 18 would all be gathered together, and the problem, and also paragraph, of course, paragraph 13. Then the question would ask you which of the following statements in relation to related party disclosures is incorrect. Okay. So you can expect that paragraph 13, 17A, and paragraph 18 would be among the choices, and these are the correct statements, class. Okay, so which of the following is true concerning disclosures, related party disclosures? Also include paragraph 18A, that could be among the choices. Amounts incurred by the entity for the provision of key management personnel services that are provided by a separate management entity shall be disclosed. Okay, so you might uh, get confused with paragraph 18A and 17A. Here, paragraph 18A requires it to be disclosed. Then paragraph 17A tells you that the entity is not required to apply the same requirements. So the possible changes might come from paragraph 17A and paragraph 18A. So make sure that you are familiar with the wordings of paragraph 17A and paragraph 18. And of course, you have paragraph 19. Basically, this answers the question, what is to be disclosed. But I want you to read this class, but again, we do not expect this to be asked as a multiple choice questions. Okay, the disclosures required by paragraph 18 shall be made separately for each of the following: the parent, the entities with joint control, subsidiaries, associates, so on and so forth. But please go back to paragraph 11, class. As I mentioned earlier, paragraph 9 and 9B and 11 would be a source of a multiple choice question. Which one describes a related party relationship? Which one is not? Then you have 11B, class. 11B. Okay, remember 11, in the context of the standard, the following are not related parties. Two joint ventures simply because they share joint control of a joint venture. Okay, without having read this in the standard, without knowing that the standard has explicitly stated that this will not they will not be considered as related parties, it's very understandable for you to think that they are related parties. Okay, so assume A and B share control over C, class. A and C are related parties. B and C are related parties, but it does not necessarily mean that A and B are also related parties. Again, this is a scenario wherein it would be very easy for us to just conclude that two joint ventures will be considered as related parties simply because they share joint control over a joint venture. Okay, so please remember this particular item because many students would commit a mistake on this item. And of course, paragraph 21, class, very important. These are your examples. The following are examples of transactions that are disclosed if they are with a related party. So make sure to go over these items. Purchases or sale of goods, purchases or sales of property and other assets, rendering or receiving services from one another, leases, transfers of R&D, license agreements, so on and so forth. Okay. Paragraph 22, class, is basically another example of a related party transaction. So again, this would still be useful as we try to prepare for multiple choice question asking us for which are related party transactions, which are not. Paragraph 22 tells us participation by a parent or subsidiary in a defined benefit plan that share risks between group entities is a transaction between related parties. And then we have for government related entities, class. I do not expect a question to arise from this part of past 24. Okay. So, but here, just from our reading of the definition of related parties and related party transactions class, I do not expect you to be able to memorize already class. So you have to find time to go over this again so that you'll be able to answer a question which of the following situations describe a shows parties that are related.